This is by far the biggest project I've ever worked on. Talon, Christone, and I have made some significant improvements to the CartMIS and have put together a fully thought-out cart-based storage system. Here is CartMIS V3. There are a bunch of components I want to go over in this system, but let's start with a quick overview. The system itself is made up of 32 multi-item sorters, 216 single-item hybrid sorters, and 16 non-stackable sorters. The input runs on a clock that sends carts through every 32 game ticks, making this the same speed as previous versions, running up to 16 times hopper speed. The input relies on a large queue of hopper minecarts picking up item entities and sending them off to be processed. The input will lock itself to prevent items from despawning. You cannot overload this thing. Items will find their way to the correct chests based on your item layout and assignment, with unsorted stackables, unsorted non-stackables, empty shulkers, and overflow ending up here. That's the gist of it, so let's get into a little more detail. The input is something we've struggled with since the first version of the CartMIS. Originally, I had the idea to just toss loose items directly into a water stream, which I thought was kind of cool, but people did not like. For CartMIS V2, we used a chest minecart as the input. You'd drop all your items into the chest, push a button, and done. The problem here is that we found the chest minecart would occasionally burn up in the lava, causing a bit of an inconvenience to have to refill your chest minecarts. In V2, we also implemented Christone's fast box unloader, which queued up shulker boxes to be drained using a bunch of hopper minecarts, which were then yeeted. Christone figured out that he could use the same concept to unload a chest and build this wonderfully compact little input for us. I'm pretty confident that our input problems are now truly fixed. Christone's fast box unloader remains in this version as well, however with some improvements he made over its V2 counterpart, making it much more compact. No changes on this component from V2, but it's an important step in the process nonetheless. This simple little contraption sorts stackables from shulker boxes and other non-stackable items by pulling a single item from the cart and processing it. If it's stackable, the item is returned to the cart. Otherwise, shulker boxes and non-stackables are sent down their respective paths, and empty carts are sent directly back to the input queue. Stackable items continue along to these whitelisters. Each represents one side of a haul of single item type hybrid loaders. This way we can send carts directly to their assigned haul without having to drive them over every sorter along the way. CartMIS V2 was chosen for this function partly because the whitelisters themselves were a solid part of the V2 design, but also because this is a blockerless whitelisting process. The carts here can have empty slots in them without breaking the whitelister. Matched carts are sent up these elevators to their respective halls, where they'll encounter these one-wide tileable single-item type cart filters. These sorters rely on pulling a matched item into the hopper, which will increase the signal strength of this comparator and push the cart over this soul sand. This happens quickly enough that the cart is allowed to snap to the rail below, where the hopper will push one item back into the cart and drop it into the in-slice cart queue. Hopper minecarts are locked in advance to avoid pulling items out from the filter hoppers. The cart queue is a similar concept to what you saw in V2, except we've made it one wide AB tileable instead of two wide tileable. Oddly enough, this component gave us the most trouble, I think, out of the entire system. Earlier configurations of this would run into problems over time, where carts and adjacent slices would affect each other's momentum and shoot cards backwards into the stacker. We overcame this by leaving this sticky piston extended by default. That way it kind of keeps everything in place. Carts enter the queue, get yeeted, if nothing is currently unloaded, and when this hopper drains, it calls for another cart. This relies on a concept called stack separation, something I've covered extensively in the past. Yeeted items drain into our hybrid loaders. We call them hybrid because you'll have access to loose items and shulker boxes of the same item type. The slice will first fill this chest with loose items, then continue to fill this shulker box, and eventually to this dropper. At that point, the box is broken using a zero-ticked composter, pulled back over this hopper, and stored below. If loose items are removed from the top chest, they're refilled with items from the shulker box that's currently being loaded. These loaders need a constant supply of empty shulker boxes. We'll talk about that a bit later. But if you happen to run out of boxes, you could end up soft locking a slice if no shulker boxes are available to be dispensed. I've built in an indicator for this just in case. If you see this, you'll need to refill the shulker boxes, find the affected slice, and reset it. Let's take a few steps back. If a hopper minecart passes through all the whitelisters, it will then be sent for blocker configuration. We decided to go back to blockers and carts for this multi-item sorter because of a way that was found to remove blockers more effectively and make the slice truly one-wide tileable. Blockerless is cool and all, but there are a lot of cart gymnastics required to get the cart to where it needs to be in the blockerless setup, and it's probably just not worth it. Luckily, we had already partly configured for this when we took an item out for pre-sorting. Our carts look like this, with one item in slot 1 and up to 63 items in slot 5. This setup allows us to fill the empty slots with temp blockers, then remove them one at a time while adding one true blocker immediately after. Carts coming out of this will either look like this, or somewhere in between. Now on to the MIS Whitelisters. Like every other project, we went through innumerable designs before we landed on this one. And even still, we have an accessible version and a standard version. Here we went with the accessible version. This allows users to set white items are being sorted from right in front of the chest stack. Carts are run below here, where they will pull in a matching item. This is why it's important that the carts were configured to have their items distributed across 2 slots, so there's always room to pull in this extra item. If an item is taken out of the chest, the signal strength reduces, turning off this torch and extending this piston. The cart keeps momentum through these rails, where it snaps up above the hopper, returning the item to the chest, and moves on to the first elevator. Next, the cart's momentum is slowed as it moves over this hopper. This acts as a filter to remove all blockers and spit them into a water stream to be returned to blocker configuration. The cart then moves into the last elevator and sent up and into the same cart queue found with the single item type hybrid loaders. Items are unloaded into the chests here just as they are in the hybrid slices. Taking another step back, non-stackable items are sent from the pre-sorter directly to Command Leo's non-stackable sorter. There is a lot going on with this thing, and I'm not going to try and explain it. Though I will call out that this version sorts out different minecart variants. I encourage you to head over onto the Storage Tech Discord and check this thing out. Speaking of, the Storage Tech Discord server now has over 25,000 members. It's the second largest technical Minecraft server, second only to SciCraft. Storage Tech is an amazing resource for item sorters, storage halls, shulker box fundamentals, anything you can think of related to storing items in Minecraft. I highly recommend you come join our community and get to know some of the people behind many of these designs. A few small things left to point out. There was a small indicator panel next to the input. Here, you'll be able to see if the system is in operation, if the input is locked, stock warnings for arrows and shulker boxes, and if you have items in overflow. Arrows are required for sorting armor in the non-stackable sorter. If you see this light come on, you can find the chest you need to refill here. The shulker boxes for the hybrid loaders are a little closer. If this indicator light comes on, you'll need to refill here. If you're not using carpet mod and stackable empty shulkers, I would recommend adding a few more chests above. We also left this space open for you to decide what goes here. You could add more hybrid slices for commonly accessed items, a brewing station, an auto crafter, or whatever you want. We may fill the space in the future if we do a V4, but for now it's your call. As with any complex and precisely timed redstone build, it's a good idea to implement chunk loaders. Here I've included Kaizen's pumpkin-based chunk loaders. They turn on automatically if any hopper minecarts have been dispensed for sorting. It came to our attention that our system bears some passing resemblance to Kazoo's multi-item sorting system. There's a few reasons for this. For starters, Kazoo originally based their design on Lummy thieves, and Lummy credits Talon with input on his design. Many of the concepts of cart storage are based on Talon's work, so you'll see similarities in the Whitelister and the in-slice cart queues. Some differences in our system include a pushing Whitelister versus a dropping Whitelister, in-slice call for carts instead of a global call, carts being yeeted directly into a water stream, stackable cart blockers being ejected directly to a water stream, and a 32 game tick input versus Kazoo's 48 game ticks. Kazoo also uses his multi-item filter for single items and attaches an accessible loader to it. We've developed a single item cart based sorter and chose the hybrid bulk approach instead. Well, that's it. It's been a while since I've posted a video. It looks like my release schedule is getting further and further apart. Not that I have a release schedule really, I just still continue to do this as a hobby, and, life gets in the way. I would like to continue making videos. It all depends on what new mechanics come out for redstone and storage tech and Minecraft in general. But your support does mean so much to me. I appreciate all the subscribers and the comments and the likes that you give, and I will continue to do this for as long as I can. Big thanks again to Inspector Talon and Christone. This system wouldn't have come together without the two of you, and this was truly a team effort. Hope to see you all for the next one. Thanks again, YouTube, and have a great day.